done a lot of shows in the summer. I mean, not a lot. We've done festivals, and we started in February, and we've had about half a dozen festivals and little shows. When we do a festival, I always put a couple of shows around it, so it makes it more of a stretch to get into the music.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a long tour ahead, 3 months, and it's going to be very, very hard work, but very rewarding.
What I didn't realise last time we spoke, just before the tour started really, that you've got a whole load of dates in Europe, haven't you? So it goes right the way through till Christmas, and then you're back in the UK for some more dates here, aren't you?
Yeah. The European tour is probably 2 months solid, but it's good. A lot of the countries I haven't played with my band, so we're going to Czech Republic, Spain, Italy, all of Scandinavia, Russia. I mean, all really important countries, and it's great. So for me, it's a new start.
How have things gone? Because when we spoke last time, I was really impressed. You were, I think, the very same week rehearsing some new material.
Yeah.
So have you been playing that?
Yeah, I change the music all the time. I find it really important to keep things turning over. So this tour we've got 5 new pieces that we haven't played before, and it was important to do them. So the set we play tonight will probably go all the way through to the end of the year, even though we've got a couple of other things up our sleeve that we can use as well, which are new. But yeah, I like to keep injecting new stuff into the show.
Yeah, and have these new pieces gone down well so far,
Incredibly well.
Yeah.
Really well. Yeah, we're doing a Beatles song tonight.
Oh, very appropriate, yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't sound like a Beatles song.
Oh, yes.
It's quite heavy. It's fun to play, and people really do like it. I don't want to be really tied into Jethro Tull by doing sort of mirror image music. It becomes Jethro Tull without the flute player. Same way that if Ian does that, it's Jethro Tull without me. But I don't want that. It's important that I have an identity. So I've either rearranged them to make them more fun to play on guitar, and so like Fat Man doesn't have mandolin or flute, but it's got big guitars, and it's very meaty. But by rearranging it for guitars, it's changed the music a bit. Well, I played Mountford Hall with Lee Dorsey and Tina Turner, Icon Tina Turner. That's a long time ago.
What year would that have been? Pre-Tull?
66. 1966.
As a guitarist?
Sax player.
Oh, this is it, yeah. Your secret life, which everyone knows about, of course.
Yeah, but I wasn't a good player. I played a bit of guitar, but I got the gig because it was there was the promise of playing some guitar, which never really materialised until the blues. We just sang for our supper. So, but when it was soul music, we played all the soul stuff. When it was R&B, we played R&B. And then the blues came to England big time in '68, and lo and behold, guitar came out again. The hotels didn't matter because you're in America. The hotels were good. We shared rooms because we're on a budget, but it was an adventure. We were like backpacking in America, which is the equivalent of backpacking in around the world today. It was the big adventure, the big journey was to go to the States, and we loved it. We were just in awe of the culture, and staying in motels. The motel culture was fantastic in those days. Nothing was sleazy, because motels, that's where you stayed in America. motor hotels. That was the main accommodation, but it was all incredibly exciting, and we played weekends. We'd play New York, and then the next weekend we'd play Detroit. So we had a lot of time, but we explored, and it was fabulous.
So what about the venues? Do you remember much of that? I mean, were they fairly medium-sized venues, really?
They were important venues.
Yeah.
New York was Fillmore East. Detroit was Kobe. No, it wasn't the Kobe Hall. It was the Argo. I want to say Argo. It's not Argo. Argonaut Theatre. They were the big rock venues where Led Zeppelin were playing, The Who were playing, Blood, Sweat and Tears were playing. Everybody was. They were the rock venues. There wasn't that difference in capacities. That they were great. That they were where we needed to play. I mean, we weren't top of the bill. We were supporting bands, but that was that's the ladder you had to climb in America. You had to get your foot in the door, be a support band, get some fans, try and blow the main act off the stage, and then come back and be the
triumphal.
Yeah. That's what it was all about. You had to fight for your existence.
Yeah. So who was, if you like, encouraging you at that stage to go to the States? Would that have been your manager?
Terry Ellis. Well, we had to get there because the big success for English music was in America. And although England, we had a big core following, and smaller in Europe at that time. But he realised if we were going to make it in every sense, you had to make it in America. England, the famous one is Cliff Richard. It's not enough to make it in England and Europe, because America is a big market, and you're either all or nothing. And sadly, he's nothing in America. People don't know him even now, and it's huge. But I think the press in England gave us a hard time going over there. They said, they've sold out. That was the expression of the day. They've sold out. They're not the sort of blues band doing all the clubs and the real English music. They've gone over there and commercialised it, but it was only then, and now it's normal. I mean, every product's worldwide.
That's right. I mean, you were trailblazing, really, weren't you?
Ish, yeah. But I mean, there's Led Zeppelin and The Who, and a handful of bands that had been there before, but only by a year. I mean, yeah. So I mean, we were, but we weren't. There was a lot of countries. We played South America, Israel, Turkey, Estonia, Russia, and we were the first band in those territories. India as well. That was trailblazing, because nobody had been there to test the water, but we had the offer, and we were over there.
And you found there was a big market for the music as well.
It was exciting, Yeah. If you're the first Western band to play in Argentina, you play to 50,000 people a night, which is a real buzz. I mean, next time you play to 20,000, because by then all the other bands started filtering through as well. But I mean, you were really spearheading Western music in these territories. It was amazing.
It must have felt really good at the time.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy for people like myself to say to you, well, do you remember that? Or I mean, we're talking 40 years on, and most people, recollection gets hazy, doesn't it? But I mean, do you remember? I mean, specifically, for instance, the Isle of Wight was one of your sort of early big UK festival gigs.
Yeah.
And with that being now available as a DVD Blu-ray, I suppose at least you can go and revisit that, even if you've forgotten about it, really.
Well, no, I haven't forgotten anything about the Isle of Wight.
So did that have quite a big impact on you, do you think? Personally?
Oh, yeah, it was a fabulous thing to do. I remember everything about it. I won't watch I might watch it when I'm 80, if I make 80, but I don't watch me. I don't want to. I don't particularly listen to me either from the old days. I mean, I know what I did, So, and I've got, other than as a reference musically, I don't go back and revisit. I mean, I certainly wouldn't watch a DVD, but it was a great time. You know, all the band stayed in this big country house. A helicopter took us to the site. It was larger than life, but it was huge. It was just, it was the Woodstock of England, and we missed out on Woodstock. So, but we got the Isle of Wight, so that's great.
Yeah. And do you remember standing in the sidelines watching Hendrix, because he was on after you, wasn't he?
Yeah.
On the bill.
Yeah. One of his last appearance, was it?
Yeah, it was last major appearance. Wasn't it? Yeah. Very sad, but you were there anyway. Just looking at those tour dates, it is actually quite incredible. I don't think it'll be rarely repeated by any band actually. If you trace it from like 1970 onwards, you're all over the place. As we've already mentioned, you went to India, but right across Europe, South America, and it was constant. It was relentless, wasn't it? Really. But did you ever hang back and think, my God, this is a roller coaster, and I want to get off this?
No.
Or did you just think, all my Christmases have come at once type of thing?
I'd say neither one nor the other, because it was hard work. I was away from home, and later on away from my children, so I wasn't suffering the consequences, but they were, and they didn't say, you know, that they didn't complain, that they got on with life. I mean, that they enabled me to do it. But so I've got regrets, and there were times when you get fed up. But who doesn't? You know, there's nobody in the world that doesn't go through that. Maybe a day every 2-3 months, but it was. That's what I did. That's what we did. We were musicians. We went on the road. We made albums. We toured them, and there'd be a huge tour schedule. That was what we wanted.
It must be strange, because I suppose now you must be in receipt of an outpouring of affection for you, really, that perhaps you didn't think was there 20 years ago. I don't know, because as you say, you were very much part of the band. You didn't. I know you gave interviews and stuff, but Ian Anderson was the one who was always giving the interviews. Really. I mean, is that partly true? Do you think that you are witnessing, certainly with this current tour and the previous tours, you know, that my God, people really like it.
Well, I was aware that you know, within the Jethro Tull family of fans, I knew I had a place there. So whatever, you know, I'm not going to say everybody adores me, everybody hates me, nobody cares, but whatever, I can't control that. But they're great fans. The people that come and see me play are just amazing. You know, I sign autographs, I meet them. But the bad thing in a band is that when you've got a figurehead that really lives off interviews and talking, and I mean, self-promotion is a harsh word to use, but I think Ian just sort of loved that side of it. You know, he loved to talk about many subjects. He's a very intelligent person, and that part of his job became more important, I think, than other things, which I won't talk about. But so that there's that. I think it sort of morphed into a situation where Ian wanted to do all the interviews, and you know, he'd do a radio show. Some things upset me. I could do a radio too. You know, maybe this is in the 90s, talking about the history of the band. I just thought, well, if Sting did it, he'd have I forgot his name. You know, Dominic. He'd be there, because Sting acknowledges Dominic has given him a lot. You know, he's my friend. He's part of the music. Here he is, and he wants to say something. I was really upset about that, really upset. But that was the way things were going, and that became normalised. But the other side of it is, you know, you've got a bunch of musicians that nobody hears, and they don't have a microphone to talk through, and people just think, you know, they lose interest. They become depersonalised because they don't have a voice. It's a really bad mistake.
I think it would hurt anyone. Actually, I think it's
I mean, the band aren't here, and but I'm not keeping them away. And at the end of the, if I do a radio, I at least ask Dan, because Dan is part of what I do. And if it was practical, I'd have 2 or 3 of them. We'd go in the studio and play a song, have them all, and I'd want them to talk. I'd say, I think it's a band. That's the difference. It's a band.
You've put yourself perhaps in a more healthy position now, haven't you? Really, in many ways, really. From a personal point of view.
Yeah. It's a happy band. Yeah. Not saying that anybody else's band isn't happy. I mean, I think if they come into a situation which is black and white, which certainly has happened in other bands, then there's no argument. I just do my job. I get to the gig, I play the music, I try and play it really well, and then I go home. I get paid for it. I'm not being paid to talk about my childhood, my politics, or who I like, which my favourite musicians. It's black and white. But when you start together, it's different. And I feel that there's a growing stage with my band where we're all sort of working hard to make it work better and better, so that they need a piece of the action. They deserve it.
With any musician, where you've got somebody who's obviously writing the music, but as a guitarist, you're stamping your mark, as you've done so well through the years with Tull. You're rearranging things. I could go on, it doesn't need me to mention Aqualung, Locomotive Breath. And yet, in the day of reckoning, you don't actually get a songwriting credit for those pieces.
But then I didn't write them. I mean, this is
though, because I think that was an injustice. Talking just about Tull actually, but as a general.
Well, there's lots of ways of looking at it. One way is certainly with Aqualung and Locomotive Breath. Ian wrote the riff as well as the song. I arranged the solo. I said in Aqualung we're going to have a guitar solo, so I sort of looked at the chords and had an idea where it breaks down. That was me, but I didn't actually write new music. Whereas in Heavy Horses, I wrote the guitar solo, and they're all totally different chords. It's a piece of music within a piece of music. That's mine. So that's one facet. I mean, it's very defined. When somebody writes chords and the lyrics, they have written a song. And if you add something to it that they could include you, but they don't have to, and that's universal, because the job of a guitar player is to come up with a guitar part. If you don't, you probably lose your job. I'm not going to hire a bass player and ask and expect to write his bass parts for him, because A, I can't play bass well enough, and B, I want him and I expect him to be able to do it as part of his job. So, you're looking at it from both ends, and I don't have any problem with any of it. I mean, Ian's songs made Jethro Tull, so there's no arguing it.
But the other argument is that your guitar playing made Jethro Tull.
Yeah, well, okay, but to a lesser degree. I mean, that followed on, but basically, when people bought an album and liked a track, that their first experience would be liking a song, and then they might like the sound of it, and then they think, it's great flute playing in that one. I really like the guitar in that song. It develops, but it's what you do. You can't expect to play an instrument and not be involved in the arranging. I mean, the only area that I would say is that Jethro Tull always heavily arranged the songs, very heavily, and although nobody gets paid as an arranger, it's especially things like Thick as a Brick. That there was a lot of music came from all the people, musical ideas, and it's really important not to lose sight of that.
And did they get credit for that?
No. No,
So,
but
is
I
that
mean, it
right?
wasn't done. You know, I mean, have you seen you won't see an album where the band get credit for arranging.
Well,
I mean, it's just it's the way things are. But I mean, it'd be nice. I think I would probably do it just because I like everybody to know how that evolved and why that's there and who was part of it.
I was going to sort of ask you that. Do you think any band works like that, where they have a 5-way split or something?
Well, oh yeah, they do.
Because-
10cc did.
Yeah.
You know, whoever wrote the song, they just split everything.
That's an agreement that was obviously made at the outset.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Do you think it leads to a happier band, really?
probably not. I've got no idea. They might argue. They might say, well, actually, it was my song that earned us £3 million.
And resent that sort
yeah,
of thing.
and your song didn't even get in the top 20.
It is difficult, isn't it? But it's a fascinating subject, really.
Yeah, but if everybody's writing, I honestly don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to any of that at all. But it's subjective.
So really, what I'm getting to is that people will be listening to Jethro Tull on the radio, and they'll hear Aqualung, they'll hear all these classics, but actually, you know, Martin Barre's not getting any songwriting credit.
There was a system, particularly in America, where even session musicians got some of the royalties. They realised there's a hole in the market where people were part of the music, but were just getting a flat fee, and then that they weren't sharing in its success. So I mean, it's nothing's perfect. So
When was that?
roll with
then the American change. That you
Oh,
mentioned?
this
Was
is
that
a
quite
long
while
time,
ago?
15 years, I don't know, 20,
Yeah.
15 years ago. I mean, it's supposed to happen, but, you know, I'm too busy to look into all of that.
No,
I'm here and now. I'm not interested in what's gone. In a business sense,
No, I
I got paid for what I did. We earned a lot of money. I'm not rich. I can't retire, but you know I've got a very nice house, and I had some good years.
Yeah, but obviously that stresses the fact that being on the road, as Jethro Tull were for so many years, and in great places. I mean, that's where, of course, for any band, you do make your money, don't you? Because you're getting the. So that's puts that in perspective, I think, for people.
But you know, we always, in different ways, we all shared the business of being on the road and albums. You know, that there was no. It was all very fair. You know, I don't think we were working within very correct boundaries. So I don't have any regrets or
And I presume you would have got
moans and
royalties
groans.
from albums, would you, Mark?
Yeah.
And you still get.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. But you know, there's an argument that I could retire and there'd somebody be out there playing and promoting the music of Jethro Tull, and I'm receiving the benefits because if somebody does 200 concerts in a year, and by virtue of doing that, you know, an album sells, or you sell 200,000 albums, but they've done all the work.
Well, you
but
played
still,
on the album, though.
yeah, exactly. So you know, it's a complex picture, and you can look at it any way you like and think that that's the right way of looking at it, but there is no right way.
Are there any other Tull songs you're thinking to yourself, even now, I'd like to rearrange those? Or are you thinking, Martin, I want to do some new stuff now?
I should do very. If I do any more Tull, it'll be to replace one I already do. So I think we're about half and half. Well, I haven't counted, but I think it's half Tull, half cool songs. There's one song I've written that we started playing this tour. There's one that Dan's written. Next year I'm going to do an album that's all my music, all my songs. I don't want to do any more instrumentals, but I want to write some songs, and that'll be the next album. So that will take a more important role.
Well, all the very best for this forthcoming tour. The date's in Europe, and we'll follow your progress with great interest. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.